I can't go in for any sort of cooking that's trying too hard, which rules out fusion food right off. But I have nothing against pleasurable eclecticism. Naturally, I want to plunder from all over, and I see no reason to apologise for that. In fact, I have only one rule in the kitchen, which is, if it tastes good, eat it. This salad, prawns and black rice in a sort of Vietnamese dressing, didn't start off life this way, by which I mean I had them left over in the fridge and just put them together and they worked. This fabulous black rice had gone with a fish curry. I'd had the Vietnamese dipping sauce, which I'm using here as a dressing, to go with some roast chicken stuffed with lemongrass. Did have a fresh consignment of prawns, and it just shows that in life and in the kitchen, the really best things that happen to you are not as a result of planning. I'm going to get the prawns in. I want to poach them, which means they'll keep lovely and tender. Just pour over some water from a recently boiled kettle. Some lemon. Just a rather clumsily spritzed juice of half a one. And salt, thereby reproducing the briny marine environment from which they come. Put them on to poach. And while these are cooking, I'm going to get on with the sauce, which is incredibly easy. So a couple of cloves of garlic, minced. Mince them whatever way you want. I just find this easiest. Ginger, about this amount, I don't know, a spoonful or so once you've got this golden pulp. And this is definitely the best way of getting that. A chilli. You can either use a fat juicy one like this or a couple of those lethally fierce bird's eye chilies. I mean, however much heat you want, you go for. Chop finely. You want to see all these lovely red confetti shards of chilli flecking the black rice. And it is really black rice. It's not white rice dyed with squid ink, and it's not wild rice, although frankly you could use either if you prefer. Okay, in with the chilies. Now, on top of that heat, some fish sauce, about 4 tablespoons, 60 mils. Wonderful sort of deep and throatily saline. After saltiness, sourness, always important. About 2 spoonfuls of lime juice, I'd say that's about 1 lime. Right, so I want heat, and I want sour, and I want salty, and I need a bit of sweet as well, so a couple of spoons of sugar, and some water, about the same amount as the fish sauce, that's to say about 4 spoonfuls. The sugar dissolves quite easily in this acid liquid. And now what I hope is a seamlessly engineered time and motion study. The prawns should be ready, and they are just perfect. I love how these grey mottled prawns turn into these fat coral curls. Look at them. Nice and fat. Perfect. Now you just need to stir everything together. One thing I would say, always use a fork when you stir rice. Don't use a spoon or it'll just go claggy and squidgy. A bit of stickiness is divine, but you don't want everything to clump together. Okay, so that's the rice. Now spoon over some of the dipping sauce, and can you see how the red of the chilli and the golden of the ginger just stud it? Some prawns. It's really up to you whether you make this a prawn salad that's banked about with a bit of rice, or a rice salad dotted with prawns. I'm easy on this. And top with a bit of the sauce. And you know, just goes to show that the best sort of cooking is the cooking you just do by rummaging about in your fridge, playing with what you've got. I also love this rice hot and topped with tender squid rings and a generous drizzle of that fabulous red-flecked Vietnamese dressing. The nubbly black rice goes dreamily with the bouncy sweetness of the calamari. Despite being a complete carnivore, I often go in for a veggie version. So let the rice cool and replace those plump pink prawns with chunks of creamy jade avocado and again pour over some of the Vietnamese dressing. This is a perfect sofa-slumped weekday supper. My pasta with mussels is a bit of a hybrid, really. I mean, it's mostly Italian in that it is a shiny black-shelled version of linguine with clams. But then again, it's a bit French in that it has a reminder of moule marinière and finally reaches Spainwards for a slug of sherry. But for me, the whole point about cooking with mussels and why I love it is that you feel you have the sea right in the kitchen. The mussels take such a short time to cook. I'm just going to whack in the pasta now. My favourite linguine, which are like dense, flattened spaghetti shapes. Perfect here. I use half as much pasta as mussels, so for this 250 grams, I've got 500 grams of mussels there. Now, I'm going to give the pasta a good 2 minutes under what it says in the packet. Linguine should be cooked for 11 minutes, but what I want to do is drain this when it's partially cooked and then cook it for another couple of minutes in the mussels and all their briny juices, and everything comes together. The pasta absorbs their liquid. That's also the sauce. I like to use a juicy red fat chilli for this, and I de-seed because although I want heat, I don't want mind-blowing fire. And I cut this, however clumsily, into thin, straggly strips. Garlic, just one clove. Look at this beautiful rose garlic, heavenly. You cannot have mussels without garlic. And I like this cut into shards too, little spikes, just cut lengthways and then down them. Bit of olive oil in this new pan for the mussels and all their lovely garlicky chili bits. Ordinary, not extra virgin. And I always cook garlic in cold oil and then heat it up. Otherwise, the garlic sizzles straight away, turns brown, turns bitter. You don't want that. So, in they go. Okay, so heat on. This won't take very long. Just want to let these strips soften in the warm heat before adding some sherry. And I love sherry here. I mean, wine is more normal maybe, but the thing about sherry is that it's fortified and that makes everything more robust, and I want this to be gutsy, simple but gutsy. All I'm going to do now is drain the liquid off these and tip them clatteringly into the pan. Pour in the sherry, and I use Amontillado, but as long as it's good sherry, use any that you like. Clamp on the lid and let the mussels steam. Swill. This is partly just to disperse the heat and partly because I love the sound. Perfect. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to drain the pasta and then let it sit in the briny, winey juices. Final stage, very necessary. Gonna chop some parsley This is crucial. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there is a holy trinity of garlic, wine, and parsley in the life of a moule. Okay. Final clattering swill, and there. Now I find that half a packet, 250 grams of pasta, is enough to feed 2 people generously for a main course, and to be frank, how else would you want to feed them? More parsley. Summer by the sea. Cappuccino per favore, grazie. I have always been a raving Italophile. I love everything about Italy. It's not an original passion, I know, but it is a heartfelt one. And someone, and now I come to think of it, probably an Italian, once said that the difference between French cooking and Italian cooking is that while French cooking draws attention to the cook, Italian cooking draws attention to the food, and I really think there is something in that. I love the way Italians make food look so beautiful. Not because they're doing anything tricksy or elaborate, but just because they've got the touch. I mean, look at those. That's just tomatoes and basil on toasted bread. And yet you just want to eat it straight away. And all of this, I think this looks ravishing. When I go to Italy and I come back and I've got my photographs and I take them to be developed, and I find when I get them back, all they are is food markets, greengrocers. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 of my children, but mostly just food. And you can see why. Italians are very enthusiastic, as well they might be, about trifle, which in their creamily gloopy rendition is called zuppa inglese, English soup. Now, I've done an Anglo-Italian version which goes back and forth from both countries for ingredients. Now, it's very much a trifle, but it has a sort of mascarpone-rich reminder of tiramisu. The base of my Anglo-Italian trifle is just good shop-bought trifle sponges wodged together with blackcurrant jam to make little sandwiches. I've used a whole packet, that's 8 sponges, but it's so difficult to say with trifle because it isn't really about quantity, it's about layering, and this is what fits into the base of this bowl. That's the Brit base. On top, an Italianate sprinkling of, look, these amaretti biscuits, which I've just processed to a rubble, not too fine and sandy, to sprinkle over. Wonderful, very almondy. Now, on top of the biscuits and the sponges, another Italian note, this time sounded by some lemon liqueur. I mean, only because whenever I go on holiday, I come back with some odd drink or other, and this one is delicious. But if you haven't got any and don't want to buy some, then use rum or whatever you want. Rum's very good in this. Okay, 150 millilitres, which is, I suppose, you know, a good glassful. I mean, I don't think even I would drink this much, but still. Just pour over. Turning everything to citrusy sludge. And now, the only bit of cooking this trifle involves, I mean, normally you have to make a custard, I've spared you that, is just heating up some jam, not even cooking, and a bit of a squeeze of lemon. Just because I think when you have sugary stuff, you need sharp taste just to counter it. And then, once this has melted slightly, it's just a question of tumbling in. Look at these luscious black fruits. Ooh. 750 grams I've got here, but it doesn't really matter. Just heat the blackberries just until the juices start running out. I don't want to turn these to mush. I just want them to be more of a glossy compote than single clumpy fruits. I love blackberries, I have to say. Just blackberries sprinkled with a teeny bit of vanilla sugar and a huge swathe of double cream. I mean, I could have that for supper throughout the summer. So beautiful how these berries turn to glossy jet. Look at them winking at us. And the way they peek out under their blanket of white mascarpone later. Now on top, a layer of, I don't know how to describe it, it's almost like cheesecake mousse. Mascarpone whipped with some egg and 100 grams of caster sugar. Just pour half of that, or thereabouts, into the yolks and put them aside for 1 minute. The whites in here. Okay, this is not going to be at all interesting, but it has to be done. Now, I want to sprinkle in a bit of sugar into these frothy whites. They're nearly stiff enough. I don't want them really dry, just firm and frothed to give a bit of lightness to the mascarpone. Okay, so we're on to stage 2 with our eggs. So the 2 egg yolks with the sugar just need whisking until they're yellow and frothy. Doesn't take long. And then a good slurp, about 3 spoonfuls of limoncello into that. Okay, so a lot of mascarpone, I know, about 750 grams here. Beautiful, luscious and creamy. Just fold it in. Good sounds. And now, the egg whites. Don't be scared of egg whites. You know, don't think that you have to be so gentle or everything will go wrong. It won't. In fact, I'm going to do a bit of very, very brisk beating. Now, I like to have a teeny bit more of the lemon liqueur in just to bring everything together at the end. I mean, the thing about putting drink in is it's up to you how strong you want it. I think it's the lemonness of the liqueur which helps make this redolent of cheesecake, which is never a bad thing. Okay, now just blanket over. Actually, it's more like a duvet, isn't it? See, this makes everything so simple. The point about trifle is it's the ideal pudding to make when you've got a lot of people pitching up, because you just wouldn't make this for a small group because it isn't worth doing in a teeny weeny bowl. Now, what I'm going to do tomorrow is sprinkle with the remaining bit of amaretti rubble and a few toasted flaked almonds. This just has to go into the fridge till then. For an easy but ludicrously gratifying main course to go before my Anglo-Italian trifle, I love to barbecue a big fat Dan Dare steak. But first, in the spirit of tasty eclecticism, I dunk it in a Korean marinade, savoury and tenderising, of soy, fish sauce, ginger and spring onion, and a pinch of sugar. Black and blue is the New York restaurateur's term for the way I love my steak cooked. That's to say, seared, really charred on the outside and quiveringly rare within. Now, if you want your steak black and pink or black and dark brown, please be my guest. But I love this, and I love the way the barbecue really burns meat, so you get a deep, salty, flavoursome crust. Now I think this looks ready to turn now. Ah, fabulous and black. I kind of carry on the theme of Korean barbecue by cutting this very, very thinly, so you end up with a tangle of spice-seared ruby flesh rags, which I have a hostess trolley come barbecue here. I warm up these things, which are a cross between Chinese pancakes and flatbreads, pile up with meat, and then some cucumber and spring onion, and roll up and just munch. Or we can go back more Brit style, if we dare. Nice bun with, see, we have got a contribution to make, brown sauce. And in fact, if you've got any of that dipping sauce that went with the prawns and black rice, that's fabulous with this too. So you can really eat it as you want. That looks ready now. I shall start carving. I can feel the cave woman swelling up inside me. Oh yeah, fun one. If I had to start making a pudding at this stage of the proceedings, I really would lose it. But the good thing about the trifle is, well, there's nothing much to do now. I've done everything yesterday. All I want to do now is toast some flaked almonds, by which I mean fry them in an oilless pan until they go brown and golden. But you don't even have to bother with this if you don't want to. You can use just the rubble of mushed up amaretti biscuits left over from yesterday. But I like the mixture of Anglo almond and Italian almond. But this is the pièce de résistance. Hello, darling. Look. Beautiful trifle. That day in the fridge really lets it all get lusciously firm and everything melds together. Just want to dive in at this stage. Perfect. Needs nothing more than its final sprinkling. But what I love about this trifle is the wonderful contrast between all that spongy goldenness and then the deep red from the blackberries oozing out and down against the mascarpone and eggs. Now these should be ready now. Lovely and golden. I love this final sprinkling. It's not just the goldenness, which I think is necessary, but that touch of crunch and the contrast with the mascarpone cream underneath. Beautiful. Right, on my tray, and triumphantly gardenwards.